could not be more thrilled to introduce our guest for today, the incomparable Kelli O'Hara. Kelli is to me the quintessential triple threat. Her talent is unparalleled. She is beautiful inside and out. She is soulful. Kelli is a 7-time Tony Award nominee. I don't even know how that's possible. And she won the Tony Award in 2015 for her performance in The King and I. Combined, Kelli has more Outer Critics Circle, Drama Desk, Drama League, Grammy, and Olivier Awards than even imaginable. She's appeared at the Metropolitan Opera and The Merry Widow and Cosi fan tutte, and her concerts have gained international acclaim, spanning from Carnegie Hall to Tokyo. And if all of this isn't impressive enough, she received a Primetime Emmy Award nomination for her performance in the web drama series, The Accidental Wolf. In 2019, Kelli was honored by the Drama League Awards for her distinguished achievement in musical theater. And now, can we all please welcome one of Broadway's greatest leading ladies, Kelli O'Hara.
Hi.
What room are you in? This is what I always like to ask people.
I'm in my little office. I'm kind of sitting in a little strange cubby corner, which makes it look like I'm boxed in, but it's just the kind of the quietest place I can find. So,
well, thank you for joining us, Kelli. And have you performed in Atlanta? I couldn't remember.
I think I came through Atlanta when I was on the Jekyll and Hyde tour, which was my first equity job back in whatever. And but I haven't been there in a while. It's been a long time.
It's a great town. Come visit us, not just by Zoom.
Okay.
I saw in an interview, I was, doing a little research. I do know you quite well, but I thought, let me do my due diligence and see what I don't know. And you gave voice to this idea that as a result of your infatuation with movie musicals, mm-hmm. that's kind of what sparked your bug for this business. And that there's a piece of it of your infatuation that kind of made you feel different from everybody else. Can you speak more to that?
Yeah, I think kids like me, we didn't have a lot of live musical productions at all. I mean, the little community theater, very, very tiny, I'm talking maybe like 20 seats or something, was there, but I never saw big musicals. I didn't see a Broadway musical or come to New York until I was 21. So I really grew up watching the movies and kind of being a kid that I had friends and I was very active in a lot of ways, but sports were the big thing where I'm from in Western Oklahoma. And so when people gathered, they were gathering for sporting events, period. And my mom was a lover of music and still is, and her parents were too. And she just made me fall in love with all of the movie musicals. I mean, it started with the Oklahoma and, Shirley Jones and all of Julie Andrews. And we were watching everything from those types of musicals to Doris Day films, The Wizard of Oz, anything that we could do. And there was a fantasy about that for when you grew up on a farm in a town of about 8,000 people, that fantasy just, it makes you dream. And I think being that kind of dreamer made me very different from other kids. I come from a place that's very tangible, and we work and we do this, and then we grow up and we get married and we have kids, and you don't take risks. You don't do the fantastical things. And so even talking about it to people, I could see their faces just saying, what are you talking about?
Well, yeah. And that speaks to why young adults start to feel different from other people because of their response, right?
Yes.
So did you have the arts in your school?
Well, we did have a great band program because it was the marching band. It was very important during the football games. So the marching band was like best in the country, and I was in the band, and then I had a couple of great teachers in the theater departments, and we do these little plays or musicals, but it was really kind of considered more kind of a real offshoot of anything that was valuable. In fact, I have a scholarship back in the town that I grew up with, and I've never had more than 2 applicants for the whole scholarship. And it's not a small one, but it's worth a good bit of money. And I'm surprised because one of the things, the criterion is to major in some sort of fine arts, and no one's going to do that from there. No one. 2 kids. One of my applicants this year wants to double major, just, probably, but in something like criminal justice and music. So, my, it's just, that's the way it is. It's not seen as something that is legit. It's seen as somebody being kind of silly.
Whoa, I'm about to go rogue here on my questions. So sorry, Rita, but I think about that, and I think about how much we all talk about the importance of arts education, right? But if it isn't understood at the school level, at the school curriculum level, then how else do people have exposure? Like
it's true. And it is that teacher. For me, it were a few teachers that really changed my view, because they believed in it, because that's why they taught there. And, if they were really energetic and creative, they did pull the kids in for the class, but it was considered that fun thing you do in your drama class or whatever you do. But it was never kind of studied as this could be a future. This could be a real passion that could be taken forward. But I did have a couple of really strong, beautiful teachers there.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you moved to New York City from this environment?
Well, I've said more than a million times probably that my ignorance about the whole thing probably just served me so much. I just believed that it was something I could do. I could literally pack my suitcase with no job, no prospects, nowhere to live, which is all the truth.
Right.
And I'm going to go be on Broadway. I'm going to make it on Broadway. And had I known the absolute, had I been at one of those schools like NYU or Michigan where they're reading the New York Times and they're studying, whatever it is, I would have been scared out of my boots, and I never would have gone. I just had this vision of it. Vision that I'm going to step into town and I'm going to do it. So I walked to my first audition like I'm going to get that job. I just assumed I would.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right about the guilelessness of it. I think it actually is helpful for those of us who come from smaller towns. I did it well. I took the train, actually. I took Amtrak from Gainesville, Georgia to New York, and my dad put me on the train, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And then you kind of sober up years later and you think, holy cow, I did that. I'm glad I didn't know what I know now. So I hear that. Kelli, you can't read an interview that you have participated in or watch a special that features you without your mentioning your family. It is so clear that your personal life is what grounds you. And I think all of us right now are leaning into our home life with such gratitude, and we're all clinging on to each other. And at the end of this period, whenever that comes, this period of isolation, when it ends, how do you think you'll be changed? Or how do you think the change that's happened within you will affect your work?
I think I am being changed in huge ways right now. I think to just go back to the family thing, as I talk about where I'm from and all that, I have to let you know that it was my family, my parents, that said, go ahead, go try this. And as a mom myself, I can hardly imagine a kid saying to me, I'm going to move to New York with no prospects. And and they were the ones that put me on that plane, and they believed in me, even if they never told me that how scared they were or that they thought that I was being crazy. They just said, you can try, you should try. You'll never forgive yourself. And as I'm here, getting back to your question, as I'm here with my kids every day, first of all, I've always dreamed of that. I've always had this kind of real conflict in my heart about the work I do, as much as I love it, and when I have to be away from them, and that it takes me away from them, even though I'm providing for them and everything. And being here with them every day, cooking their meals, helping them with their school, the purpose, the amount of purpose I feel is just as rich as what I felt as what I feel as a performer. I know that's going to sound crazy, but I have to be honest and say that it does. And that is going to teach me that there's not this push and pull of I'm only good as an artist. I'm only okay when I'm doing my art. There are other ways to find purpose. And I think when I go back to doing this work, I'm going to feel value about myself without it. I think something about being an artist is you feel like I'm nothing without it. And I've felt that way my whole life. And there's a part of me that feels like, no, I'm a lot of things. I choose my art because it feeds me, but I'm also, there is value in other ways.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna put that in my brain and remember when the doors open up, because that's very. Um, one of the very impressive things about you is that you give back. I mean, you just mentioned the scholarship
Mm.
that you have for your hometown, and there's one initiative in particular with the Westport Country Playhouse that you've developed, or that you're partaking in. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think I'm really excited about it. I just see that the Disney special is going to happen at this. They've moved it to the same exact time we're doing this, so I'm a little sad for any of the kids who feel conflicted about what to watch. But so I do. I'm active at the Westport Country Playhouse just by virtue of where we live and my husband's family's history with it. But after Laura Benanti did this wonderful Sunshine songs for these kids, I just couldn't imagine, think about the kid who never got a role in any musical, and it's his senior year or her senior year, and they got the role and now they won't perform it.
No, I know.
It might be the last time they ever perform in their life, if you think about it. And so Mark Lamos at the Westport Country Playhouse got in touch with me, and he said, do you want to do something like what Laura did, but for this county? And I said, well, this county's invited to do what she did. They can submit their songs to her and hashtag it and put it out there for her to see, and she will. So what can we do that's different? And I had just done that Rosie show for the Actors Fund.
I saw that.
And we started hashing, going through ideas. And one of them was, well, maybe we have a little show where it's not a masterclass, it's not a critique. It's just saying, hey, tell me your story. Sing me a bit of your song or a whole song, what you were going to get to do in front of all your community, what you were going to do to walk up to the top of the mountain and take a leap.
Right.
Let's do it. Let's put it out there. And so we've done it, and we're going to do it Friday night at 7 p.m. If you go to westportcountryplayhouse.org, it's on there, and you can go to their Facebook or YouTube page from there and see it. And it'll be kind of like that. It'll be very homemade. It'll be rough, but I'm going to talk to these kids. I can't wait to meet them and let them sing.
I love that. Well, I will definitely watch that over the Disney. I heard you say Disney, and I didn't really hear anything else after that. So I will definitely watch this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
One of the things you're so known for, and certainly something I have such great respect for you for, is your transforming these classic music theater leading ladies. And you reimagine them in ways that I think make them very accessible to contemporary audiences. And I'm wondering, was there, in your vast career, has there been one of those roles that's come your way that once you got inside the character, you thought, I don't know what the piece of myself is to bring to this, where that maybe there was a disconnect?
Oh, that's interesting. That's a great question. I mean, some of the the old classics that I've done, I didn't know as a kid. I had never seen, and I still have never seen the movie of King and I. I know that's so strange, but it's one that I didn't grow up with. I'm not sure why. I've asked my mom, and when I went into it, I thought, well, this is brand new. I'm not going to watch it. I'm just going to read the script and the book and the history, and I'm just going to see what happens. And in things like that, I can find myself. I can find the teacher. I can find the vulnerability and the person who is searching, and a single mother. And, I can find those things. But I think one of the things that was pretty interesting about our production of South Pacific, there have been other roles that, I'm just going to bring this one up. There have been other roles that I've had a little bit of a wall went up for a while until I kind of cracked something. But sorry, those are my kids screaming.
I love it so much.
South Pacific was interesting for me because we wanted to go in there, and Nellie Forbush wasn't the Nellie Forbush of the 1949 version. She was the Nellie Forbush that we all need to learn about,
right?
That we need to see change in, that we need to not understand, but to expose.
Right.
Right. So I didn't know how to do that because I went into it going, I'm going to play Nellie Forbush, right? And I was much younger then. But my mom's whole side of the family is from Arkansas. I know a lot of Southern bells. I know a lot of what's going on. And when I had to kind of face that, it's not that I didn't know it. The reason I'm answering this question this way is that I knew it too well, and it hurt me.
Right.
It was educational for me as just a human being to think about my past, think about where I'm from.
Yeah.
And not my past, but think about where I'm from and why I live where I live now, and who my family are that I love so much, that have been carefully taught.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very much deeper thing for me than I think anybody ever realizes when you're doing a musical like South Pacific. There I was singing A Wonderful Guy, and I was, Wash That Man Right Out of My Hair. But for me, that whole production was zeroed in on the line at the end of the second act when I comment on his two children. And
Right.
it was bigger than myself and deeper. And I felt very purposeful in trying to be the person that needed to be exposed. That's harder. You always want to play the person that's valuable and very, very worthy inside. But I needed to be, for that production, the person who wasn't and needed to change.
And it's fascinating when you look at when that was written and the intention behind the original production, and how I think there were a lot of years that productions forgot that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they did. Well, they left it out on purpose.
Yeah. Well, I would say, speaking of South Pacific, that's going to lead you, but you worked with some great directors.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to ask you, is there one director, and you could maybe just tell us two if there are two and you can't choose, that helped you unlock the character in a way that surprised you, in a way that you would not have been able to do without the guide of the director?
I think I have to just, I've worked with some great directors. I mean, Scott Ellis and Michael Greif and everybody, but my teammate for much of my career has been Bart Shear.
Yeah.
We've done 4 Broadway shows together, I think, which is a lot when you consider what goes in each one of those, familially and everything, I think that's a word. You just get so intensely intertwined with each other. We definitely had to learn our vocabulary over the years, over almost 20 years, but he definitely, when we were doing, whether it be Bridges or The King and I, especially in these later musicals, he knows me so well that there were things I said this one time, sometimes he can name things about my personal life more than I know, because he knows me. So he might have said something about my father, or, I'm just picking something, and a knife goes through your heart, and there is no instruction with that comment. It's almost just like a key, an unlocking of a door, and then you have to figure out what it all means. But that's what happens when it's a personal and it's a healthy relationship, as far as there's an equality there for the most part when we're working. I mean, we like to fight like cats and dogs when we're not working, and when we're working, but there is a trust there about what the end result we're trying to get, which is best for both parties. And it gets personal sometimes,
Well, yeah, it does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your voice is so sublime. You have my favorite voice, so cats out,
thank you.
and I'm not ashamed to say that right here on the Zoom call. And now you've performed at the Met twice.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like, transitioning to an opera lyric? I know I would, well, I'm not the singer you are, but even if I were, I would struggle with that. And like how the actor engine has to adjust.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done 2 very, very different types of operas, in my opinion. I mean, one was an Italian language opera, classic, Così fan tutte, and the other was an operetta. Basically, we spoke, we had lines, we had microphones for the lines, and then not for the singing, but it was all in English. And so the Merry Widow was basically like doing an old-fashioned musical to me, and I was living. I loved it. You know, I loved the fact, because I was so scared. That was my first time. I was so scared to be on that stage, that helped me so much, because I just went into, I'm in my comfort zone here. But Cozy was a very different situation, because although back in college I got an opera degree and I had done hundreds of arias, and I had done art song in languages, and I had learned the text so closely, and I could really do those one-offs, right? It was much different to be in a full driven 3-hour opera with recitative and all in Italian, when you don't speak Italian and you try as hard as you can, and you know every single thing and what it means, but the sentence structures are backwards, as we all know, especially if you speak many languages, but you know more of the essence of what you're doing. And for me, I'm so lyrically driven that is a little bit of, again, jumping off this cliff. I know where I am. I know the essence of every single sentence. I know exactly what it translates to. But as far as total immersion in the meanings of things, to not have that grasp for me was, I mean, I got through it. I played my best, you know, faker in the world, but my heart was trembling through most of it in a way that sometimes felt great, the rush of adrenaline, and other times felt absolutely debilitating. I'll admit it. I still am a glutton for punishment and will probably be back there, probably singing something in English. But that was something I needed to do for my own. I always want to challenge myself. And I remember saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And then I just kept saying, you must do it. You must do it. And I'm on the other side of it now. And I'm really, really happy that I did it.
I mean, what a gift to do something that was that scary, though.
Oh. I mean, yeah, you're not asked to do, I feel just lucky having the opportunity to let myself be challenged like that, you know? Right. So I have to take those challenges. Yeah.
Your husband, Greg, is a songwriter, among other things. And I suppose this is, you know, just my imagination running, but I always, when I listen to voices like yours and someone who I know is so attentive to the lyric, and understands the purpose of the lyric as it overlays the melody. Have you ever wanted to write, or have you written music?
I have. My first album, there's a couple of my songs on it. I wrote several for that album, but I think we only have 2. I can't even remember. One is I've written a song for each child, and all my songs are very personal, because that's the only way. I don't consider myself a songwriter at all. So when I did write a few songs, they were all very just personal stories. So one of them is called Here Now, which is about my paternal grandfather. That's on that album. And the second one is one of my favorites, which is I Love You the World, which is for my son. And then I've written one for my daughter called She Sings, which is based on Cole Porter's lyric, be like the bluebird who is never blue, for he knows from his upbringing what singing can do. And it's a little combination of that and my mother-in-law having passed, and it was very personal. And then I've written one for my maternal grandmother called Sweet Marie, but that's never been published or recorded, and neither is She Sings. So I am writing, or I have written, but they're all very just sort of more personal lullaby-ish type of things.
Right. So we know where to find them, though. You just told
the
us.
2 of them are on Wonder in the World, my album with Harry Connick Jr. Yeah.
So you started out in theater, and you are one of those actors that transitioned beautifully to TV. Was it hard? Was it challenging?
You know, one of the best things that ever happened to me, you need to learn. I didn't realize this. The first time I ever did any TV, I was giving it all. I was crying, and I didn't even realize the camera wasn't on me. I didn't even think about it that way. This was years and years ago. And I'm like just bawling and everything. And then they're like, okay, cut. We're going to turn and get your angle. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like,
I only do this once.
Right. And then for my angle, 0 tears, just dry.
Yeah.
One of the best things for me with this project that you mentioned, The Accidental Wolf, my friend Arian Moyad, who wrote it and directed it and everything, it was basically like I was doing a job, but within the job, I was having a full master's program in, because it was such a small company of people. And we had the wonderful cameraman, only two of them. And they were constantly talking to me about lenses, and we were just in the room together. I wasn't nervous to say, oh, I better not talk to him or bother him. I was constantly saying, why are you changing that? What's happening? And the Arian saying, we're going to go in with you tighter on this lens, and we're going to do this. And please don't, please don't look at this. The little specifics of having to throw in a performance, but also remember these technical things, which I think I used to be offended by. Like, nothing's going to stop me from being completely natural.
Right.
That's the technique of it. It's the finding the natural in the specifics. Your scene, the camera is part of that process. That is part of the team. And so I learned a lot doing it. So I don't know if it was hard to adjust, because I just didn't know what I was doing the first few times, but then learning on the spot was actually such a gift to me.
Yeah, there's something that rings so true to me, that it's the inside the specificity lives the natural.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand conceptually. I would not be able to do it. I can do it on Zoom. This is low pressure. Your concert career is tremendous. And one question I wanted to ask you, because I assume a lot of what you sing at your concerts are pieces that you've also sung inside a musical.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever, is there a struggle in stripping away the production of those songs, your emotional recall memory of singing the song inside the show, and then now you're at Carnegie Hall and you're in a dress and you're completely outside of the element of the show?
It's interesting. I've never really thought about this enough.
You're like, yes, it will be a struggle.
No, no. What I realize about my shows, unless I'm doing like a symphony concert where they say we're going to do a whole night of Rodgers and Hammerstein or Lerner and Loewe, my shows are so personal. It takes me a journey, and it's always a different version of the same theme. But I start from there's country music in it. There's a little bit of jazz in it. It's all my background leading up through to right now usually, and it's a journey. And I then intersperse these songs that I've done in shows. And what I realize is that I love being me in front of an audience. I love doing this conversation and having these concerts. What I realize now that you've asked me is that I spend so much time reinterpreting songs of all sorts in my show that when I get to the song from a show, I always step back into the character for that performance.
Yeah.
So I'm Clara when I'm doing the title song. I'm Francesca when I'm doing To Build Myself a Home, even with the accent. I'm Getting to Know You, I'm Anna. I realize that about myself, because if I'm going to do those songs, there's only been a couple that I've kind of stripped down and just rearranged so that it's a very different thing. But if it was my role that I did forever and ever and ever, I usually step back into that as part of the show. Like, this is what I did during that show.
Right. That takes a lot of concentration, I would bet, or maybe not. Maybe the emotional recall is what helps you.
I think it's the muscle memory, in that, in a way, you're with all of these other ones that seem so much more, you're going to a deeper, different place. I think with the muscle memory of doing something you've performed 1,000 times, those are the breaks in the show for me. Those are the easy breaks. Yeah.
Well, we are going to open our call up to this incredible, it's an incredible group of people that I think we have 25 attendees. No, we have 19 is what this says to me. So if anyone has a question, if you could please just punch your little hand icon, and we will unmute you. I will call your name out so that my special helpers can do the unmute button. I think Eric has a question.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this. It's really lovely to be here and to hear you speak. I was wondering, you mentioned like really briefly about having kids, and it was kind of that like not finding your purpose solely in performing or anything like that. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of the duality of like, was that tough at first? Was it kind of like, I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there, and they slowly melded into one, just like life in general? Or was it more difficult, or was it naturally easy, or anything like that?
Thanks. That's a great question. I think that we as human beings will always make whatever we have to do make sense to us. We'll fight. I'm going to work because I have to. I'm going to work because this is my passion, or this pays the bills, or whatever it is. And then you come home and you say, I'm here now. And being a mother is everything. You play these little games with yourself, and to make whatever you're doing at that moment feel the most purposeful. And I think I've always thought of myself as a very committed and loving mom, but I'm also gone sometimes. And when I first became a mom, like I told you, there was that real conflict. And so I've had to be honest, it wasn't an easy transition. It was a real struggle to say, but I want to be a full-time mom. I want to be the best mom. I want to show my kids that they're more important than this work. But then I constantly had to go do the work, because that was what was being called on from me. And with this particular situation right now, there is no talking myself into anything. It is the choice that I've been given. And what I realize is that I've kind of lost myself in all what I'm talking about. But what I've realized is that I don't have to talk myself. There's room for everything. But the thing is to be where you are. Be where you are and forgive yourself, and just embrace what you have and celebrate it. When you're with your kids, be with your kids. When you're at work, let yourself be in your work, or filter your feelings about that family thing through your work, but to answer it easily and quickly is, it's never been easy. It's been one of the harder things, and the most fulfilling, but the most difficult things of my life, because it's against all my nature to ever leave them at all.
Right.
So you just constantly forgive yourself. Let yourself be where you are, and know that you are giving what you can. I mean, I'll always say quality is better than quantity, but don't expect it to be easy. And when it's not easy, forgive yourself.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
You're welcome. I kind of got lost in my explanation.
No, that was so lovely.
Okay.
Hannah.
Okay, hi. Okay, so my question is, because this is something I've been dealing with personally lately, is when and if you kind of notice that passion or that spark kind of die out, what are some things you do to help yourself getting back that spark in order to keep fulfilling that purpose? Because like I said, that's something I've been struggling with, and trying to find ways to reignite that passion.
I'm finding, I think that is very normal. Again, forgive yourself. It is very normal, because especially if we're doing kind of same things a lot, or I think really watching where art is in our world, really observing things. And it literally can be a walk. It can be right now, I mean, especially it can be on the television, a film or a TV. It can be through children. It can be watching one of your favorite artists. And it can especially be very internal. It can be journaling, or listening to the lyrics of a song that you thought you knew and reimagining them. And then what happens is you start to say, my God, that piece of art names things for me in a way that I haven't been naming for myself. I didn't know who John Prine was. This is just an example. I didn't grow up knowing who he was, the amazing songwriter who just died. And because of all these people talking about him, his influence, Bonnie Raitt talking about him like he was just one of her real inspirations, I started to listen to him a little bit. And I just thought, look how many people are out there beckoning us to think of something different in a different way, or explore it through our bodies in a different way. So if my advice to you is to open your eyes to anything that's around you. I mean, look to the right, and maybe there's a painting or a picture, and just say to yourself, how does that make me feel? And it's everywhere. It's an inspiration is everywhere. It doesn't have to be so so obvious.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney Collins has a question.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Kelly, thank you so much for being here and doing this. And in lieu of everyone, all of the Broadway stories being closed and people in different stages of their runs, I was just wondering, you've had the blessing and the luxury of having such incredible long Broadway runs of all your shows. And I was just wondering, is there any certain character that you felt that you didn't get to really sink your teeth into? Was there ever a time when a run of yours was cut short and you were like, God, I don't feel like I really got it?
Well, I mean, I could easily say Francesca from the Bridges of Madison County, just because it closed before I wanted it to. But at the same time, for some reason, there was a great understanding in that woman and the way she sounded to me that feels very complete, even though I beg for the next time we can do it in another way, whether it be a concert version or another run or something. I've always wanted to do it again, especially since I was immediately postpartum during that time. I had just had a baby, and so I remember very little of the whole thing. But I would probably have to say I could have worked a lifetime and never understood Clara for a couple of reasons. And therefore I don't ask for it to come back. I wouldn't ask for it to come back, but I never thought she was mine, first off. But even in having her and living inside her, I don't think any of us can ever understand. There is no one quality about Clara's accident or her state that is something you can learn. In fact, who Clara was in our particular show was a non-existent person. Every person with brain trauma that I had studied or researched had qualities that we couldn't afford to put in our show. So the person that we created for Clara doesn't even exist. So there is nothing I can study or do. There wasn't anything I could do at the time. And being a person who was older, actually playing this person, I had too much knowledge to be as empty in certain ways as Clara needed to be. So it wasn't something I could add or study more. It was actually something that I should have, if I could go back, and I'm not even asking for it, I would meditate it away. I would become more of a vessel for the Margaret story. I would become emptier. I would become more of someone who is still searching, not someone who is so, at the time I thought she was so frustrated and she was so complicated. Really, Clara was just simpler. She was simpler. And I didn't know how to play that when I was that age.
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you.
I'm going to embarrass Courtney for a second. Everyone on this call, they're all, I told you, Kelly, fabulous artists that live and work here in Atlanta. And Courtney Collins was in the prom, and she moved to New York in the prom, and we're happy that she's home now. But,
oh, great. Oh, I love it. I love all the people you got to work with. Jelly.
Thank you. I felt so lucky to do that, but it's good to be home. And I'm such a fan of you and of your work. And thank you for all the stories that you tell us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Danielle has a question.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
So we were talking a little bit earlier about some of your previous roles, and a lot of them are the quote unquote ultimate ingenue roles. And I'm curious if there was ever a conflict for you fitting into that role, or the idea of type. Did you ever have any conflict with that? And do you have any advice for actors who feel kind of constricted or frightened about the idea of type? Because you seem to have broken all those walls.
Well, thank you, first of all. And
Right.
yeah, there was never an ingenue role that I felt great about. A lot of my friends, we moved up to New York, and one of the things I do realize is that how much type is important, because I started working fast. Why? Because I had blonde hair and I sang soprano and I played the ingenue. A lot of my friends didn't start working until they grew into some of the more character roles because that's how they were seen. So it was a tough psychological thing and personal thing with friendships and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of weight to it. And I think we're getting into a place where that is sort of being broken down. And I thank you for your compliment, because I always was watching those movie musicals of those ingenue girls, but by the time I got there, I had already watched those musicals when I was 7, 8, 9, 12, whatever it is. By the time I had moved to New York, I had taken on this challenge. I had a lot more to say than "I'm so pretty by the flowers." I had so much more to say than the guy who was going to come and save me. And I was going to say, "I can't do it without you," whatever it was. And so if you say that I broke some of those boundaries, it's because that if those were the roles that I was getting, which they were, and they were the ones I was going after because I wanted to work, I had no other choice than to try to make them different, try to make them a little bit more varied and a little bit more complicated than I could. Now, it's interesting that we just had the conversation about Clara, because that's why she was so hard for me, because I didn't want to just be simple. And lost. I wanted to have so much to say, but this particular girl didn't know how to say those things. And Kelli wanted to say them. I wanted to put my feet flat on the ground and say them. And so it was always a challenge, but I think, necessity is the mother of invention. So you go in and you need to make it different. You need to make it special for yourself. So you turn it upside down. If you're cast in something that is really typical what you look like, so you're being totally typecast, turn the role on its head and see what they think. Just because why do something unless it's going to be different than the time before?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
Courtney, do you have another question? I see your hand still up.
I have another question, unless I'm.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Well, first of all, you have my favorite voice as well. I'm with Amanda, and I just love your voice. Do you still study?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I study. I mean, I've been a little bit lax recently, I'll admit, but my teacher since I was 5 years old. I knew of her. I didn't start taking from her until I was 18. Her name's Florence Birdwell. It was so hard for me to move on from Mrs. Birdwell, and she retired. So when I started to do Merry Widow, Renee Fleming hooked me up with Gerald Moore, her opera coach.
Oh, yeah.
And I have found so much value in him, not just as an opera singer or a classical singer at all. He has said things that have changed the way I think about a lot of musical singers singing, even bringing more of my chest back into my sound, which I had kind of walked away from for a while. And so, yes, I think it is so important, because we just get into habits, and you need that external voice saying, "No, ma'am."
Yeah.
No, ma'am. And he helped keep me on my toes. And I take on these challenging things like the classical stuff because I want to keep studying, and I know that'll get me there. I'll work on new things. Yeah.
Well, and it's always good to, it's humbling too.
Oh yeah. I just look at my Instagram. It's all about humility these days. It's like, I can't believe I just said that because I'm so social media, blah. But humility is something I think we can all, it will keep us in our houses. It will keep us saving each other right now. It also keeps us working on being better artists. It's the humility that makes us look around and listen to other people's work and other people's poetry and music and voices to inspire us to know that we're not the only game out there. There are so many people that are putting their heart into this, and if we're stronger as a team,
Bravo. Thank you.
Hanley has a question. Hanley? Okay, let's see. I did, yeah.
Oh, there's Hanley with her
Hello?
handsome husband or boyfriend.
Oh, that's my husband.
Okay.
Which is ironic because that relates to my question. It kind of harkens back to what Eric was speaking about earlier. A lot of the things that you've mentioned that are important to you are really important to me too. And I deeply love my husband and the opportunity to work for nonprofits that I'm with and having all these times to do the things that I'd love to do. I find our career always asks us to divide ourselves and choose between family and the career, both of which I find equally fulfilling. So when you are approaching a project or considering accepting something, or when you're seeking something out, what are some of the qualifications that you look for to help you make those hard decisions?
Well, ultimately the buck stops here, but every single decision I've ever made is made with Greg, my husband. We're a team. He doesn't tell me what to do. He, in fact, is from a fine arts family, so he gets it. He will say, oh, well, you know, we'll be in the busiest time of our lives, or I will, for instance, just have had a baby. And we say, you got to do that show. You've been working on it. You know, you've got to go do that. This isn't good timing, but we'll make it work. Then there are the things that I think I'll want to do because it will feed my ego, like, you know, little galas or one-off things or things. And he's my friend who says, you don't need to do that. Don't need it. Don't do that. We need you home on Monday night. We miss you. And he's not, thankfully, now this isn't always the case, but he does want my best for me. He wants the best for me. So he's not going to sabotage me as a partner. Now, if I said to him, no, here are the reasons why I think I should do it, he'll listen to me. Well, you're right then, you know, if it's up to you. But it's priorities. It's being a team. It's not demanding. It's working it out. It's talking it out. Is this the right thing for me to do? Is this not the right time? How will it affect our family? How will it affect our relationship? I have made sacrifices at times that have kept me from certain things that I think career-wise maybe would have taken me in a different direction. There are times when I think if I had done that, maybe this would have happened. Do I regret? I can't regret, because I'm right here and I have nothing to complain about when it comes to my family versus my career. So I think you have to look at it as a one-by-one choice, like one at a time. Don't try to make blanket choices, but to say, is this particular thing right or wrong? How does my husband feel about it too? Doesn't mean he's got the last word, but let me take his opinion as well and put it with mine. And then be ready to make the hard choices when it comes to your career. I think the hard choices, the ones where you sacrifice, need to be more for your career. And you don't sacrifice as much for your personal life. That's my opinion, and it's served me well.
Thank you.
Well, I think that is all of our questions. Kelli, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Amanda.
This was an absolute treat, and I appreciate you taking out time to talk to us. And thank you, everyone that is on this Zoom call. Thank you.
Thank
and we'll
you.
see you soon.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Keep doing your art. Keep looking for inspiration.